So every February 14th rolls around and you know the drill, right? It's all roses, chocolates, maybe a mad dash to get a dinner reservation. But if you think Valentine's Day is just some modern holiday cooked up by greeting card companies, well, you're in for a huge surprise. We're going to dive into this because the real story, it's so much wilder. Okay, just think about it for a second. On one hand, you've got everything we associate with the holiday today. The roses, the chocolates, the fancy dinners. But on the other hand, where it all started, we're talking goat sacrifice, a rebel priest, and pagan rituals. Seriously, the journey from that to this is, well, it's a chaotic, totally fascinating story that kicks off way back in ancient Rome. All right, let's jump in our time machine and head way back, long before there were any saints or greeting cards, to a festival that was a lot more wild. So, back in the day, around mid-February, the Romans celebrated this thing called Lupercalia. And let me tell you, this was not about writing love letters. It was this primal fertility festival. So you gotta think less bouquet of roses and way more chaotic street party. It was a huge deal, but romantic? Oh, definitely not. And get this, the details of the ritual are just, wow. Priests would actually sacrifice animals, then run through the streets, slapping women with the hides. And here's the crazy part. This was considered a good thing. It was supposed to make them more fertile. Yeah, a far cry from getting a box of chocolates, right? So, the big question is, how on earth did we get from that to a holiday named after a saint? Well, this is where the story takes another really sharp turn. Let's talk about the man himself. Okay, so the most famous legend takes us to 3rd century Rome. You've got this Emperor, Claudius II, who decides to ban marriage for young men. His thinking? Single guys make better soldiers. But this priest, a guy named Valentine, he thought this was a total injustice. So what does he do? He starts marrying young lovers in secret. The key thing to remember here is that he was a rebel, a romantic rebel, you could say. Of course, he was eventually caught and sentenced to death for it. And the story gets even more personal. Right before he was executed, Valentine supposedly sent one last letter to the daughter of his jailer, and he signed it with a phrase that, almost 2,000 years later, we still use, "From your Valentine." Yep, that's where it comes from. Mind-blowing, right? Okay, so we've got a wild pagan festival on one side and a martyred saint on the other. How did these two completely different stories ever get tangled up? Well, this is where the holiday gets a massive rebrand. It really happened in a few key stages over hundreds of years. First, you jump to the 5th century. Pope Gelasius I comes along and officially makes February 14th Saint Valentine's Day, basically replacing Lupercalia. And you know, this was a classic move back then. Instead of trying to get rid of a super popular pagan festival, the church just kind of put a Christian label on it, made the transition easier. But that just changed the name, not the whole vibe, you know? It took hundreds of years until the poet Geoffrey Chaucer in the 1300s to actually link the day with romance. Then, fast forward to the 19th century, and the Victorians took that little romantic spark and just poured gasoline on it. Thanks to the Industrial Revolution, they could mass produce these beautiful, elaborate cards, and bam, the commercial holiday we know today was born. But let's dig into that Chaucer connection for a sec, because it's super important. Back in the Middle Ages, there was this popular belief that mid-February was when birds started picking their mates for the season. Chaucer was the first person to actually write this down in a poem, connecting Saint Valentine's feast day with this sort of natural love is in the air feeling. It was a brilliant move, really, a poetic touch that completely changed the holiday's vibe forever. And that, of course, brings us all the way to today. Because the evolution didn't just stop with the Victorians. Oh no. The holiday has become this huge global phenomenon, and its meaning is still growing and changing. I mean, think about it. Valentine's Day isn't just for couples anymore, right? It's totally evolved. We have Galentine's Day to celebrate our friends, and there's a big movement for using the day for self-love, as a reminder to treat yourself. It's become this much more inclusive celebration of affection in general. And you see this evolution happening as it spreads across the globe too. Like in Japan, it's actually the women who give chocolates to the men. Or check out South Korea. Singles have their own day in April called Black Day, where they all get together and eat these dark noodles to kind of mourn their single status, or maybe celebrate it. It just goes to show you how adaptable this holiday has really become. So when you step back and look at the whole picture, the journey is it's incredible, right? It starts as this chaotic Roman ritual,
gets its name from a rebellious priest, receives a Christian makeover from a pope, gets a dose of romance from a poet, and now it's a global day for celebrating all kinds of love and affection. What a ride.
You know, when you really think about it, this is a holiday that has survived empires, plagues, massive cultural shifts, pretty much everything. And its resilience, I think, is a testament to one really simple, powerful idea, that affection, in all its messy, rebellious, and chocolate-covered forms, is always, always worth celebrating.
So yeah, it's a day for rebels, for poets, for friends, for lovers. It started with one thing and became something else entirely, which really just leaves one last question. After all that history, what does Valentine's Day actually mean to you?